Hi everyone, my name is Jared from Bucklebull Model Trains and welcome to the 11th episode of DCC Fridays. Today we're going to have a look at the TCS UWT-100 wireless throttle. It's a Wi-Fi throttle. This is a pretty new product out there on the market. Somewhat new. That particularly hasn't got a whole lot of exposure down here in Australia that I'm aware of. People know about it and it has got out there, but I'm keen to sort of explain and show off this product a little bit more. Disclaimer, I don't earn anything from making this video or anything. I'm not selling them yet, I suppose. It's something I've had my eye on for quite a while, and I finally managed to buy one and it's arrived and I've had to play with it and it's great. So we're going to take a look at it and see what all the hype is about. If there is hype, I think there's a bit of a hype, particularly over in the US about it and things like that. So we're going to jump straight into it. I'm going to jump behind the camera and show you the throttle. So this is what the throttle looks like. I'm going to come around here. So this is the UWT-100 wireless throttle. This is kind of what it looks like. And you may notice that it looks somewhat similar to the NCE Pro Cab, Power Cab kind of throttles with the encoder thumb wheel in the center here. These kind of these keys are for 1 speed step up for these ones, and then these are for 10 or speed steps up. Now I say that they actually are adjustable. That's one of the brilliant features of this throttle. So you may notice it's a little bit like that. I'm going to keep swapping hands so I don't ruin my muscles. So to give you the full rundown, these are worth $300 out of the US, and then obviously we have to pay the lovely shipping fees for things out of the US, which is quite exorbitant to Australia. I managed to pick, don't faint, but I managed to pick this unit up along with buying another one for a colleague. So we split the postage cost between us. It cost me, I believe it was about 406 Australian dollars. Now this is only getting better at the moment as the US dollar is, the exchange between Australia and US dollar is improving a lot in our favor, and is supposedly meant to continue in that way. So that's kind of what it costs. What does it do? It's a Wi-Fi throttle. So we've actually never seen a purchasable product that's not a smartphone app or anything that is actually a Wi-Fi throttle. Thinking off the top of my head, there's been some Z21 kind of stuff, Roku, Fleischmann Z21 systems that have used Wi-Fi. I believe that's sort of a different protocol. We're talking about Y-throttle, engine driver, those sorts of things that works with JMRI, that works with Digitrack's LNWI, a little Wi-Fi unit, if you know what that is. The Wi-Fi tracks unit for NCE systems. I believe that's the only sort of proprietary devices, but definitely JMRI. So a lot of people use JMRI connected to their layout to then drive their layout with smartphones or their tablet or things like that. I have done a video about that in the past, particularly from the Y-throttle Apple device, so iPads, iPhones kind of perspective. But of course that's available on Android. So this is, a lot of people kind of, like a physical throttle. This is a physical Wi-Fi throttle, which is the first one produced. And not only that, I think it's, in my humble opinion, I think this is the best throttle out there on the market, and I'll kind of go ahead and explain why. So I might at this point just go ahead and turn it on. Now they recommend you can basically hold down any key. I'm just going to hold down that key, and then they say press 2 to start. So I'm going to press 2 to start. Now what it does is it is now connected to my home Wi-Fi network, or in your theoretical scenario, it will be looking to connect, based on how you set it up, to your Wi-Fi network that is that is shared also by the computer that is running JMRI. So in this case, my computer that's over It's sitting down here. Or it will look for your LNWI device on your Digitrax LocoNet style layout, or it will look for your Wi-Fi tracks, Wi-Fi signal, that sort of a thing. So a little message came up across here saying connected to my Wi-Fi, and we can see now that my power is off on my layout over here, which is what we're driving. And you'll notice there's some information here, and there's a whole stack of information up here. It takes rechargeable or any AA type batteries. There's been some sort of dramas in terms of what batteries can I use. You can use literally any AA battery and it will work, which is great. There's not like a charging port or anything to charge batteries directly into the throttle, like some throttles that are coming onto the market now from Digitrax, but it's just as simple as opening this and there's your batteries done. It's quite simple. So the thumb wheel feels very nice. That's a really important feature. It's actually using the same encoder as the NCE throttles, so they were definitely appealing to that market. And now some of the really useful features of this throttle that make it worthwhile are not only the fact that you can control train locomotives, you can control points, you can do consisting, you can control your layout, track power with this button, all that sort of stuff, all the regular things that you can do with the smartphone Wi-Fi interface, wire throttle or engine driver, but it actually gives you the benefit of doing that on a physical throttle device. That means that gone are the days of needing to, and this is what you're paying for, but gone are the days of needing to, look at the touch screen of your phone and go, okay, I want to press F2, I want to press that button to blow the horn, I need to sort of look at that. I can have this behind my back and press F2 on the physical thing without having to look at it, and hey, the horn will blow. That sort of a thing. That's kind of one of the really main big benefits. That's made easier by having these 4 remappable buttons. These can be programmed in the throttle very easily just through the menu here. There's a whole stack of options that are really easily laid out. You don't have to have a PhD to understand this at all. That's one of the other brilliant features, is this thing is designed to, it comes with an instruction manual, but you really don't need it. So you can remap these function buttons to do a whole stack of things. So very simple. The most common scenario of using these is you can remap it to your favorite function buttons. So for instance, I've left this one is the recall button, that I've left that as the factory default. So that will allow me I can press that, and then it is then recalling actually a consist that I dial up of my GM and B61. And if I press that, I'm back to the SSR B61 that I had selected before. So that just lets you jump between very quickly 2 different locomotives to, for whatever you need to do. There's a whole stack of scenarios where that will be useful. This button here was, I believe, by default mapped to the horn. Actually, it might have been something else, but I may have shifted it. But F2 horn is always here. Now, side note, I believe that it by default is actually labeled up here as horn and not 2. So that's kind of helpful. But I'll talk a bit more about the labels, because then these 2 here are custom things that I've put in. So I've changed this to be F6, which I use as it says load here. So in my sound projects that I've designed, you notice the backlight's going off here. So if I just move something, it'll come back on. In my sound projects, I've designed a thing where this feature where if you press the load button, the diesel locomotive will notch up faster if load is turned on. Therefore, we're in heavy load mode. It'll notch up much faster as if there is a big heavy load behind the train. If I have that off, the train the locomotive will notch up at its regular designed rate. And then drive L, which we can see 9 is coming on there. Drive L is drive lock, which is you may be familiar with that feature if you have used ESU diesel locomotives. So that's really, really useful. You can also remap these buttons, so you can change the increments on them. You can also remap them. So I have this top one set to, let me just, I'm going to turn the power on. Yes, so I can see. Yeah, good, okay. So if I hold this down, that's showing this button I've set to do F12, which is for me is to run notch 8. So that's helpful. And the bottom one I've set to, I've set to drive lock. It should actually be set to something else. That's exciting. I was going to have that set to coast. So kind of, yeah, sort of speed specific things, but more sound specific speed things. Anyway, so that's some examples of how these things can be remapped. So these can be remapped to, I believe, any job as well. What else? So I had a train of thought, but I lost it. Another one of the brilliant features of this throttle is that you can actually update the firmware in it via Wi-Fi. That can be done either through JMRI in a fairly, yeah, it's complicated, but the TCS gives you every single step of the way walkthrough for it, which is very, very helpful. But more simply, if you have a PC, you can download a piece of software from TCS, and you can download the latest firmware updates onto that program and then load it across to this very, 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 very easily. It's like even easier than loading an ESU lockdown decoder or something like that. It's very easy, which is very, very good, because that means this thing is future-proof for until TCS stops supporting it, and they have no indication of doing that yet, because they've built this to be just upgraded rather than having to release, you know, a UWT-150 or something. So the buttons they all feel really nice. They're laid out very well. Oh yes, my train of thought that I had before is this throttle is really, I should have said this much earlier in the video, but this throttle is really particularly useful for sound locos. This is one of the main reasons I bought this. As if you link this in with JMRI, now this is connected to my computer, which is off to the bottom right, which has a JMRI roster in it, which I have added all of the labels to the functions in. Now, a number, depending on your decoder and things like that, when you add a locomotive with a specific decoder to your, oh, okay, that's sad. When you add a, I'm going to drop this down and fix that up. When you add a locomotive to your roster that has a particular type of decoder where the project is quite sort of specific, and Decoder Pro knows of this. Some ESU projects I know do this, amongst others. All the function buttons are actually given labels rather than just being, you know, F7, F8, F9. They're actually given names, which is useful, rather than numbers, which can change. So between sound projects, F9 could do a whole stack of different jobs. F8 is probably always going to be sound on or off, but other function keys can do all kinds of different jobs. That's pretty useless. So the useful feature is, if I'm in the normal driving screen, I can press the question mark button here, which is actually basically the help key, which is really helpful at any sort of point in time. And if I press that, I can now see a whole stack of information of which function key buttons do which jobs. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, to explain another feature, if I press this button, we'll then see a little 1 appearing up there just above my thumb. That means we're now dealing with, so instead of this being 1, this is now 11. And if I press 11, that will activate, there we go, the coupler sound. You'll notice if I press that, we're still in 1. So this lets you it lets you lock into the tens digit, everything, you know, 11 through to, I believe now, and I'm still getting familiar with this, but yeah, up to, oh yeah, that's F10, yep. Now when I press, let's check something. When I press, yeah, okay, yes, no, that actually makes sense. Some throttles make 0 sense. So we've now got 1, and then the number that indicates we're in the tens, and then this number is in the ones digit. So if I do press 0, then I get 10. If I press 9, I get 19. If you can follow, and we're locked in there. Okay, so that helps you deal with controlling functions in that area. If I press it again, we move up to the 2s digit, and we can press. So that's mute is on F20. We can press 0. We can press 8. Get 28, 27. You notice they'll pop up here, so we can see them in that manner. And then when I press it, when I'm actually depressing the key, the actual title for what we're activating pops up with the JM. So this is all coming from JMRI, not sort of in real time. The throttle actually grabs this information, and I believe it actually stores it in here. And I believe, don't hold me on this, but I believe you can then take this to another layout and it will remember that. Possibly, possibly. At the least, they have claimed that if you create a consist in here, it will stay in. It can. I think we can hold 40 of the last sort of entries or something in here, and they're claiming that the consist will stay in here, and you can recall that. So by pressing this button, recall, and then you can see these. I've only so far used that many locomotives in here, but you can then scroll down, hit select on a particular consist. You can recall it no matter where you are, what layout you're on, and it will work. So that's another kind of fun feature. So that's a whole stack of features of this. Obviously this is very self-explanatory. Press this button and you can type in the number of an accessory and you can close or throw it. So typically a point for your DCC control points. You can select a locomotive by just doing this, and this will actually bring up your whole JMRI roster. So you can see this is my whole roster of all of my locomotives that I've got in JMRI currently, and this particular profile of JMRI that I have. And yeah, back to this button. If I press that now, so we're in the tens digit, and now I press the help button, this is a new lot of different, this is showing all the tens digit things. So this is really, really helpful. And I believe if I press a button, yes, it will then show. So how good is that? That's brilliant. So you can see I haven't fully used this, but you find that's the change direction button. So that's how you change directions. You find there's just a lot of really neat features in this. It does also have a flashlight. So true to the Throttle app that I'm really used to, which does have a flashlight button. Well, they had to recreate that on here. So there we go. We've got a flashlight. We've got a torch on it. So yeah, I think I may do another video on this to talk more specifically about consisting and how that works, because there's some brilliant features in and of itself in the consisting system. The way this does consisting, it's very similar to how Throttle and Engine Driver deal with consisting, which is a really neat and simple system. But this takes it one step further, allowing function button control. So you can, this again, sound locos. This is why I bought this, sound locos. You can go in and turn. You can select in your consist. Maybe I'll dial up the consist. Here we go. Consist. We've got a consist. So we've got 27 and 61 consisted together. Simple, right? If we go into the consisting menu, I'm going to press 3, or you can press select. We're going to view the current consist. Now you'll see that the asterisk there is next to 27. That means that loco is the front cab driving locomotive. It's the one controlling everything. Therefore, the throttle by default is only going to send commands for F2 horn, for F0 headlight, and those types of things to just that locomotive. You can go through the entire F0 through to 28 of all of these options and tell the throttle whether, and it will just save this permanently, whether F6 goes to all locomotives or not, or whether this button goes to all locomotives or not. Therefore, so that feature I know definitely in Throttle was not really the greatest. this kind of feature didn't exist. If you pressed F0, it kind of just, I believe it sent the command to the entire consist. So it was a little bit primitive. Done right, you could set it up okay, but yeah, it's a bit interesting. So this allows for really good control of that, which is fantastic. So you can edit this. You know, you can change it case by case as you control different consists, but it might be good to sort of attempt to keep your function buttons that do certain jobs to certain roles in order to sort of stick them with the function buttons and the way they're mapped out in the throttle, if what I've just said is making any sense remotely. If people are interested, it's probably likely that I'll do a video on it, because the consisting in this is just brilliant, and there hasn't really been many videos put out at all on kind of how it works, other than TCS have done a video, so you can obviously watch theirs, but kind of a real world me explaining it in layman's terms kind of thing. So I'm going to leave, oh, there we go, my locomotive's driving away, that's fun. I'm going to leave this video here. Great product, really like it. Let me know if you're interested in me doing any more sort of videos. I will definitely have this at shows when I go back to shows, so people can kind of see it in action and can have a play with it, of course. And I'll be playing with it at my club if you want to come and hang out at the Sydney N-Scar Club, where another member of the club also has one. He was the person I bought 2 of them with and split the shipping. So, and I'll put this down. And just to end, TCS are actually also doing, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you're going, this is great, I really like the throttle, but it costs an absolute fortune. No way I can afford that. Well, it costs close to the cost of one Australian nice, ready-to-run sound locomotive, to kind of put it in perspective. So yes, it is pricey, but it costs the same as one locomotive. If you really value running your locomotives, then maybe you would want to spend the equivalent amount of money of one locomotive on something like this. If you don't want to spend quite as much on something like this, that TCS do, they are actually doing pre-orders currently for a UWT-100 throttle, which is literally this, but smaller, with a knob. So that's the other thing. If you like an old school knob, potentiometer knob, they are doing pre-orders for $150 for a UWT-100 that has a knob. You lose every single feature that's in this will be in the UWT-100. Plus, the UWT-100 has these really neat 3-position side switches on it, which would be really cool for things like operations and that, where you're shunting with the throttle, you know, behind your back or at your side, sort of thing, without having to keep looking at the thing. So that's something to check out. I'm very, very interested in getting my hands on one of them as well, just because I just can't resist. It looks just like a brilliant product, and the pre-order price, if you pay up front, saves you $50 American, which is quite generous. So I'm going to leave it there. I've talked for far too long. I hope you enjoyed checking out this throttle a little bit with me. And as always, let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover, talk about, that sort of thing. Drop it in a comment below, send me a message, email, or something like that. And until the next video, I'll see you then, and thanks for watching. Bye.